What are some things people can do to remember names?
Yeah. Okay. So there are three keys for improving your memory. Three keys, right? So if you're ever forgetting something, you forget things, you feel absent-minded, like senior moments are coming a little bit early. You're in the shower, you can't remember if you shampooed your hair, so you end up doing it twice. You misplace your wallet, your phone, your keys, or your car. You see the people like, where did I park my car?
Yeah.
These kind of things. And they waste a lot of time too, and they take away, all the treasures. And I don't mean just financial treasures, I mean just the important things, in our life. But there's three keys. And remember MOM, M-O-M. Always remember mom. So if you're ever forgetting something, usually one of those three things are missing. All right, so let's take names. Because when people say I want a better memory, I hear them say like, oh, I want to be better at sports, because you're such an athlete.
Sure.
But it's like somebody comes to you like, well, what sport specifically do you want to be better at? Because there are different techniques and different training for different things. So remembering names, different than learning languages, different PIN numbers and passcodes and all the different things you need to remember.
Everything's different.
Everything's different.
Okay.
And so, but there's certain principles that are the same.
Okay.
So the M in mom is this. Let's say someone has horrible with names, right? But let's say that there's a suitcase of $100,000 cash if you just remember the name of the next stranger you meet. How many people are going to remember that person's name?
I'll remember.
Everyone, right? Everyone. And so that's the thing. The M stands for motivation. So it's interesting. So all of a sudden, everyone's a memory expert, but it had nothing to do with their capacity or their potential. Everyone could do it. It's just whether or not they decided to do it or not, if they wanted to.
It's almost like if it's worth it enough or the consequences are that big, or the stakes are that big if you're going to miss out on not, right? It's like the motivation.
Exactly. Because one of the things to learning, we know with human motivation, because I did this presentation and Bill Gates was there. And we're talking about wealthy individuals, right? And so, afterwards I talked to him and we were talking about the bridge between education and technology, and I was like, what's missing? What's the future of learning? And he was like, Jim, the key is human motivation, really understanding what drives people. And I was like, wow, that's really right. Because this, people could go out there and they could buy courses, but a lot of people
never open it.
Exactly, because it has everything to do with drive and reasons. Because motivation is like, what is your motive for acting?
Sure.
Right? What's the fuel? And I believe there's a success formula called H cubed, that it goes from your head to your heart to your hands. That people could visualize and affirm and see things here all the time and think about it. But if they're not acting with their hands, actually doing something about it, then usually what's missing is the second H, which is the heart, the emotion, the energy of motion. I had a martial arts instructor tell me years ago, you can't steer a parked car. You need fuel. Where's the energy that's going to do that? And so what's people's motive for action? So simple. When people are remembering people's names, ask yourself, why do you want to remember this person's name? Because reasons reap results. I've always found that in life.
Wow.
Reasons reap results, because you need a big enough why.
Sure.
Like Simon Sinek's book, start with why.
Yeah.
And so you want to get that drive first, all right? So motivation. The O is something interesting. I have people do this. I have them just kind of shake out their hand like this, and I say, make a fist, and I say, put it to their chin. And then I go like this, and everyone puts it here, but I said chin, and this is the difference. The O stands for observation.
Okay.
And I find that a lot of people blame their memory issues, and they think it's like a retention issue, but I find it's really a attention issue.
Okay.
It's an attention issue.
Being present, you mean? Or
it is. That's a big part of it. It's like, let's say everyone uses a search engine like Google every single day, but a lot of people, they use it 10 times a day. If I ask them, are you willing to bet your life you know what colors the letters are? Because that's an observation.
Sure.
There's a difference between looking at something and seeing it, really seeing it. There's a difference between hearing something and really listening. Like leaders, like for example, I had this whole escapade with the X-Men, which was insane. But I had to leave the set because I had to go to a charity event. And one of the people that I think leaders, independent of your political bent, who has an incredible memory is President Clinton. Every single time I've met President Clinton, he's remembered my name.
No way.
He does. And how many people does
he says, hey, Jim, good to see you?
How many people does Clinton meet on a regular basis, right?
A lot.
And so that's a leadership skill, though, right? And so FDR was incredible with names. Also, he would walk around the White House and point people out and say hi to them, saying hi to their spouse and using by name. I mean, that's because think about the sweetest sound to a person's ears, right?
Their name.
It's their name,
Yeah.
right? And so anyway, I asked him what's memory trick he uses. He uses no memory tricks at all. And he tells me this, this amazing story.
To Bill.
Yes. And so he tells me this incredible story about how, his grandfather, in Arkansas would get all the kids around and tell stories to them, but then he would quiz them. They would really need to listen and be present. And it's funny because I noticed that, he's Bill Clinton is, regardless of how you feel politically, incredible communicator, incredible charisma, incredible connector, right? And he also, this memory, I find, he has this incredible presence, this powerful presence, but I find that his powerful presence and his memory comes from being powerfully present. His powerful presence comes from being powerfully present. And cool. Here's the thing, when people are networking, because I know a lot of people, they're entrepreneurs, they're social entrepreneurs, and millennials, and they're going out there meeting people, because really it's what you know and it's who you know. But that's all memory. What you know, a lot of people go to a seminar, 2 days later, they'll forget everything, right? 80%, there's this big forgetting curve, but also who you know and who knows you, right? But what the challenge is though, in networking, and how many times do you find yourself talking to somebody and then looking over their shoulder?
I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate when people do that to me, though. It's like annoying.
Because you're distracting yourself all the time. Or if you're not distracting yourself externally, you're like talking to yourself.
What am I going to say next?
Exactly.
Right.
So the people aren't even listening. Now this is so key. When people are communicating, most of the times you find that they're not even really listening. What they are is they're thinking about how they're going to respond.
Right, yeah.
You know, and if you look at the word listen and you scramble the letters, it becomes the word silent.
No.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? If people would just do that, and we're talking about really fundamental things. That's one of the reasons I love your podcast, is because some of these basics, those are the biggest things that move the needle. I mean, just understanding why you want to remember something and being present and paying attention and being silent and really listening. I mean, that's not magic, but that's just like going to the gym.
Right.
I mean, think about the fundamentals. We're talking about exercise. We're talking about sleep. We're talking about a good diet.
Yeah.
That's 80. Yeah, the mindset. That's 95% of it right there.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And then finally, the third M is mechanics.
Okay.
For mom. So M is motivation. The O is observation, and then the final M is mechanics. And these are not the person that's going to fix your car, but this is the tips, the techniques, the hacks, if you will, the strategies on how to learn a language, how to speed read, how to remember that person's name, how to give a speech without notes.
Right.
But the M and the O, motivation, observation.
So what's the mechanics then for, say I'm going to an event and there's 10 people that someone's introduced me to, and I'm shaking their hand. We've all done this before. It's like, hi. What's the mechanics to remember?
We've all had the experience. So relationships, it's all proximity and it's all who you know, right?
Yeah.
And who knows you back, right? And one of the most standout skills that I know of is walking into a room, meeting 20 strangers, and leaving saying goodbye to every single one of them with their name.
Can you do that?
Because who are they all going to remember when you walk out of the room? That's a standout skill. That's the thing that, because when you remember people's name, they feel like that you care. Because what's the opposite? If you forget someone's name, how do they feel?
You don't care.
That you don't care, that they're not important.
And this is what I've been, thinking my whole life, because I've never felt like I've had the book smarts.
Yeah.
But I felt like I've cared more than 99% of people.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what's been able to get me to where I want to be, by showing people how big my heart is, as opposed to how much I know.
Yes.
And I think could be the most powerful thing, is like remembering and just being connected to people, as opposed to telling them what you know.
And that's huge too, because a lot of traditional networking or business advice will be like, oh, you have to, when you're going to people, tell them all these amazing stories and really be interesting to them. I think there's a difference between interesting and interested. You know what I mean? When you meet somebody, being interesting and talk about, I can do this, and then also being sincerely interested.
People love
in the other person
when they get to share and you listen.
Yes.
When you just allow people to share their story and what they're excited about, and you remember their name, you don't even have to say anything, and they feel like you're the best person in the world. Completely. Right?
Yeah, the late Stephen Covey, who I had an opportunity to spend a good amount of time with and share stage with, he has that, seek first to understand, then to be understood. I mean, that's huge. That's huge. And this is what you want to do. Every time you want to go, you go to a wedding, you go to a conference, you go to a networking event, 7 tips. You don't even have to use all 7. Just any part of this will be better than nothing. Okay. Right? I want you to remember, be suave. Be suave. Like you are.
That's how I live my life.
Yeah, I know. This is you, man. So when people are going out and they're checking the mirror on their makeup and their clothing, when they say, I'm going to be suave. So the B stands for believe. Because you know this better than anyone. Believe you can or believe you can't. Either way, you're right, right? And so here's the thing with beliefs. What I mean by that is you want to kill the ants. Our friend Dr. Daniel Amen, the big brain doctor, talks about killing ants, automatic negative thoughts. Because here's the thing, like, with a name like Kwik, I had to be a runner growing up. Like I always tell people, my Jim Kwik, quick learning, help people learn quickly. And they're like, Kwik really is my last name? Yeah, it's really my last name. Because with like a name like Kwik, your life and destiny is pretty much planned out. I had to be a runner back in school. I have to be careful when I'm driving, because the worst name to be pulled over when you're speeding.
A little quick over here.
Yeah, it's like you want to have that on your license. You're not going to talk your way out of that ticket.
Yeah.
And I get to teach speed learning, and speed reading, speed memory, and stuff.
Were you a distance runner or a sprinter?
Sprinter. So I was preparing for a marathon, and I was really excited about it. I of course read books on it and stuff like that, because I read a book a day and I just have to learn it. And I was like, oh, it's like Matrix Scott style and everything. I go to like Barnes and Noble, I'll pick up a book and then just read it, put it back on the shelf, and save a lot of money that way.
Nice.
But I was reading this book on running a marathon, and there's one chapter on the psychology of running a marathon, and that's what I was really interested in, the mindset. And it opened up with this paragraph, verbatim, because I'm a memory expert. It said this: your mind is like a supercomputer, and your self-talk is the program it will run. So if you tell yourself you are not good with names, you will not remember the name of the next person you meet because you programmed your computer not to. I was like, wow.
Powerful.
So B for be suave, the B stands for believe. Believe you can, believe you can't. Either way, you're right. Because here's the thing that I've learned, and here's the tweetable, if you will, is your mind is always eavesdropping on your self-talk. Your mind is always eavesdropping on your self-talk. All right. So you want to monitor that. So I encourage everyone to spend a week, do a 30-day fast, no negative thoughts, or you have to regroup. Right. Wow. So that's the B. The E in Be Suave stands for exercise, and I don't mean physical exercise, although people who are more physically active will always do better on mental acuity and memory exams, because anything that's good for your heart is really good for your head, right? Sure. But I mean practice, because practice makes progress. Practice makes progress. It always does. And so the bad news to remember names, it takes effort. The good news, not as much as people think. So the bad news takes effort, but what's not valuable in your life that doesn't take effort,
sure.
Right? And so there's no magic pill, like there's no magic memory pill, but there is a magic memory process, and that's what we're talking about. There's no magic memory pill, but there is a memory process. And so the E is exercise, and so it takes about 21 to 30 days. We learn in psychology the law of 21, practicing something for 21, 30 days, whether it's learning how to type or learning how to drive a car or what have you, until you get to be second nature with it. So you practice, and where can you practice? Everywhere, right? Yeah. Just anytime you're flipping through the channels and people get introduced, you're meeting people all the time, you can practice all the time.
Sure.
And so grocery it doesn't take that much. Exactly. You could go to the grocery store and see 3 strangers and just make up their name. That's Bob, that's Sue, that's Mary. And then when you leave, like you check out and you're at the Whole Foods. Exactly.
Yourself, right.
Yeah, and then so that's the thing. That's the difference, right?
Cool.
Tony Robbins talks about what you practice in private, you're rewarded for in public. So that's what you do. You practice. So that's the E in B. So B-E. So B is believe, E is exercise. Now the suave is the actual mechanics. All right. So the S in suave, when you're meeting this person for the first time, the S is you say the name. All right. You say the name. So hi, my name is Jim.
Hey, Lewis.
Lewis, it's nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you too. Man, if I was any better, my name would be Lewis Howe. That's my pseudonym. So I'll say the name right away, and just by hearing the name again helps me. So now I heard it twice, one from you, one from me. All of a sudden, I'm going to remember it better. My retention is going to go up. I also want to say it because I want to make sure, going back to mom, the O, I want to make sure I observed it correctly. Sure. Because sometimes you're networking, a lot of things going on. You meet someone named Ted. You say goodbye, Ed. Better to get corrected up front than later on.
Right.
So you say the name. The U in suaves means use it. You want to use the name. Very simple, right? You want to use it, not abuse it. But this, because Lewis, thanks for coming. Lewis, what do you want to talk about? Lewis is
then it gets creepy,
right? That's like a Seinfeld episode,
right? It's like salesy,
exactly. It's try hard, and it's like a Seinfeld episode where like the close talker, Or there was actually a Seinfeld episode. I haven't thought about this in years. Wasn't there a Seinfeld episode? Like a rerun, you might have seen that he was dating somebody and was intimate with her, but he actually forgot her name. And every single time she would leave, he'd try to go into her purse and get her driver's license and meet Kramer and try to get the name to come out. But here's the thing: it rhymed with a part of the female anatomy, and that was the famous episode. If you remember, if people watching this remember what that is. So you want to make sure that you use it 3 or 4 times in the conversation.
Sure.
The A stands for ask, and this is a really big one. Ask, because what's everyone's favorite subject? It's like, it's not travel, it's not entrepreneurship, right. It's not even, it's not shopping, it's themselves, right?
Sure.
And you ever meet somebody and their name is a little different than you're used to, like you've never heard that name before? Yeah. Probably 80% of the people you meet, Lewis and Jim, they're pretty common names, but sometimes you meet someone named Afzal or Ridiger or Isis or what have you. then you ask about a person's name. And what can you ask about a person's name? You could ask like, how do you spell it?
What does it mean?
What does it mean? What does it stand for? Who you're named after? Are you related to this person? All these questions. And, for the most part, everyone gets very complimented because a name, again, is the sweetest sound to a person's ears, right? And think about why, though, like the psychology of it. A child, what's one of the first words they learn how to write?
Their name,
Name.
their
How much,
mom or
exactly.
dad,
And how much love were they given when they did it right? All that emotion tied into, because I think, one of the challenges people have, like one of the biggest fears people have is not being good enough. That we're not good enough. And if we're not good enough, we're not going to be loved. And if we're not going to be loved, we're going to die or something,
Right.
And so, but that name is like our identity, right? So you always want to be able to refer that. So you ask about a person's name and they're complimented. So like, for example, I was speaking at the country's largest life insurance company, about 100 people in the room, training director was there, and her name was Nankita. And I was like, wow, it's a really beautiful name, sincerely, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, how's it spelled? Where is it from? I said, what does it mean? And she paused and she looked at all our coworkers. And she says it means graceful falling waters. And I was like, whoa. And I got like chills. And then, like half the audience was like making these sounds. And it made me just spontaneously ask, how long have you worked here? She was like, about 4 years. I was like, with all these people? She was like, yeah. Like a lot of people are my good friends or at my wedding. I was like, that's nice. How many people in this room knew that's what her name meant? And out of 100 people, how many people raised their hand?
0.
None.
Wow.
None. And that was one of my biggest clients because this person was a training director.
Sure.
And so brought me into all, but that name was a bond, right? So that was sincere.